Says I'm live, so I must be live. We'll go with that. Welcome to Blog Thursday number 474. Secure messaging. That is on the topic for today. Well, it's only a brief topic I'll cover. I want to talk a lot more about my server that became broken. I'm working on a video for it, but I don't know if the server's fixed. It's a problem. I think it's fixed because it's not doing the thing it was doing, but we're not really sure why it's not doing the thing it was doing. So is it fixed? I don't know. I could just celebrate that it works, but that's not satisfying because I have to know why it stopped working. That's the important part. Let me scroll through the comments here. Ping me if you see me live to make sure I am. So hope Sam staying live for 10 hours until your shift is over. I am not going to be live for 10 hours. I don't know how long I will be live streaming for. I do not have a stop time, and other than I run out of words or my voice gets tired or I get tired. But yeah, I will go for less than 10 hours, more than an hour probably. I see people say it's alive, so I assume that means you're hearing me. I've pressed the buttons that make the sound go. Those are important details. Actually, I now have I need to make an actual checklist. Getting close. I should put it on a post-it, press the live button, make sure the microphone is on and things like that. So reach out, say hi, throw something in the comments, make sure you know you're hearing me. So I'm assuming you are. Bearded IT Dad, you are missing a miserable winter here. It has been miserably cold. It has not been wonderful in terms of cold. So create an end-to-end workflow to start your stream. That's actually not a bad idea. Well, no, part of it is I care about physical buttons. I could leave my microphone on all the time. I choose to turn it off. So a workflow would still require me to physically touch a button. But it could send me a reminder. It could blink a light somewhere. So I could probably build an N8N workflow for something like that. That might be interesting. So why did I go away from StreamYard? The resolution is better when I do it this way, but I still use StreamYard when I'm recording Talking Head. So I still have a StreamYard subscription. And when I travel, I use StreamYard because it's way easier than setting this up. So it's kind of a mix. This is cooler when I'm sitting here in my studio because of the resolution and some of the flexibility I get. But yeah, StreamYard is, I would say, still probably a little bit easier because I can pop the comments up and just hit share on different screens. But because I'm able to just drag things from one window over to another like this makes this kind of easy too. It's a mix. Like for this setup, I like OBS because I can just drag things over. But StreamYard is definitely really nice. And when I'm traveling and I have a couple travel plans coming up, I will be streaming on Thursday from my laptop, and it's just going to be way easier in those circumstances to I could set up OBS on my laptop, but StreamYard's less fidgety. That'd be the best way I could describe it. It's a lot less fidgety just to, you use OBS to StreamYard. Yeah, you could do that as well. I thought about doing that. The problem is StreamYard is on, you remember my setup. I still run everything on two separate computers, and I'd have to draw everything into one computer to make that work. I don't know. Yeah, well, I could script N8N to control the smart plug, except one minor issue. It's not it is a phantom power I turn off. It's just an extra layer of safety in my own mental state of, I like that these cameras, because the cameras are all on their own switches. So I use Home Assistant, which of course you can tie into N8N, that does turn the cameras on and off. So there's never a question of whether or not I have privacy in here by the cameras, but the microphones, I like the fact that it's a XLR microphone. It's a Sennheiser, nice one. Don't remember the model. I'm not really a nerd about that stuff. Well, I am, but not enough to remember all the model numbers. But it has phantom power because it's XLR, and I turned the phantom power off, so I know there's no way that there's any observability on the microphones. So I mean, that's probably me going too far. And it's USB powered. So because it's constantly getting power over USB, the microphone will stay on. But then again, it's connected to a computer that does get turned off. I'm probably overthinking it. Feel free to let me know that I'm overthinking it. Ah. And would a JBOD... So, hi, Tom. How I have an idea is trying to set up ZFS on 4 one-disk RAID 0 arrays. I don't understand why you would do that. So, I am not understanding the goal is how I'll start. Oh, I see. It's because you got to... If you want to have a better time... Get the card configured in HBA mode. Sometimes it does require flashing with certain cards, but yeah, go to HBA mode, make your life much better. But the thing I wanted to talk about, and we can get it out of the way quick because I don't have a ton to say about this, but Matthew Green did, and I'll drop a link for anyone who wants to just read. I'm not going to read all of it because it's a good write-up, but I'm not reading all of it here. There we go. There, so I can send a link here. But this is a discussion, and it came up over on in the socials because I don't really know why. Maybe it's because people are talking about it because there's a lawsuit going on. But Network Chuck had posted, and I follow Chuck, and he follows me, and I got respect for Chuck for he puts a lot of good content out there. It's not my style of content, but some people love it, some people hate it, say don't care about the comments, not worried about that. But I did disagree with him on him talking about how secure WhatsApp is. Now, if you're not familiar, Matthew Green, like it says right here, he's a cryptographer and professor at Johns Hopkins University. He's designed and analyzed cryptographic systems used in wireless networks, payment systems, digital content protection platforms. In his research, he looks at various cryptography can be used to promote user privacy. Now, WhatsApp's being sued, and there's not a lot in the lawsuit. It's all a lot of noise. Lawyers, not the important part. But does WhatsApp actually support end-to-end encryption? And this is a simple write-up that, generally speaking, yes, I believe WhatsApp, and his analysis makes sense, that WhatsApp probably does support end-to-end encryption. It all comes down to some of the key management, which I'm a little fuzzy on as a non-WhatsApp user, but my disagreement really was, I don't think if you want to be secure, you're on WhatsApp. The reason you're using WhatsApp is this right here. The fact that WhatsApp is very popular, and you generally use the communication platforms that your friends are on, not so much because of security, but because your friends are there. And I just don't like encouraging people to use it or want anyone to ever assume they're automatically secure. And the biggest reason why is the parent company, Facebook, Meta, call them what you will, has had an absolutely horrific privacy policy, egregious abuse of rights, egregious abuse of privacy that are so bad that no matter what they tell me, I firmly believe they are a tainted company who will do whatever they can to skirt laws or lie in any way possible. They've been caught doing this on many occasions. But when it comes to WhatsApp, it probably is end-to-end encrypted, but I wouldn't bet on it in terms of like, if they could target you, would they? And what I mean by this, there was an interesting, and I'm surprised he didn't bring this up. This was about a year ago that they got caught using the local host loopback interface to spy on people by binding to the browser. I believe that they were doing. It was an interesting write-up, but the fact that they're willing to go so far to go around your privacy, I don't understand why. I kind of just called out Network Check. Like, why would you even recommend people use WhatsApp? It's such a Facebook is a horrible company, but the direct, do I think they're breaking it in flight? Not much evidence of that. And this was what was talked about here, but it's not open source. So this is hard to validate. It's really hard to validate, but the more likely attack vector I see coming from someone like Facebook is targeting you and doing things and figure out ways around the app isolation on the devices that you use. So I don't know. I'm still a huge fan of Signal. Signal is still my go-to messenger app for things. It is, if you do care about privacy, I believe Signal is probably your best bet. Now, I know there's other people out there going, but Tom, I like insert name of lots of other probably well-made privacy apps. But the problem comes back to that graphic of who's using them. I have a ton of friends using Signal, and I was trying to figure it out. I think there's well over 100 conversations that I have with people on Signal and tons of group chats with lots of people in it. So being that I'm in the tech and security world, it seems to be that's, pretty good there. Matter of fact, I've gotten a lot of my personal friends into Signal, and what they end up discovering is when you load Signal and they start looking around, they're like, oh, I actually know a few people on Signal. So yeah, it's just one of those things I wanted to bring up of, I don't think putting faith in anything that Meta does is really warranted. Not that I think specifically they're man in the middling in some way, WhatsApp, but just the big picture ecosystem of that. And people do bring up because privacy concerns and whatnot. And Signal is still a solid choice. It's open source, it's audited. And I know that WhatsApp uses the same protocols that are good, well thought out cryptographic protocols for doing encryption, but it comes down to implementation. Signal at least is giving you the source code so you can audit the client and validate the things that they tell you about it versus WhatsApp chooses not to do that. So yeah, it's all about how the endpoint is. And before someone points out that didn't they just compromise, the FBI took someone's Signal, they unlocked the person's laptop who had Signal on their laptop. So yes, they didn't crack encryption on Signal. They unlocked the device that had the Signal messenger on it to be able to get information they were looking for. If you look and dig into, because there's a lot of the, we'll just call them little bit too wound up people who think that the government has a back door into all things. Cryptography works. Open source is a way we can view into it. And trust me, Signal Messenger has no back doors in it. Their CEO of Signal has been very transparent about how things work. And yeah, so it's conspiracy all you want. It doesn't change cryptography and encryption. Hi, Tom. I have a rogue Windows PC that seems to be using IPv6 as well as IPv4 and avoiding my pie hole. All other PCs and phone works fine. One PC doesn't have blocked ads or anything. I'm guessing it's using DOH with the browser. That's a guess. Disable that feature on that system. It's the going around it is generally take and disable whatever on the system to stop it from doing that. Use a pigeon. Carrier pigeons. Yes. I thought the big issue was the ping attack on Signal WhatsApp. Not, I seen that write up and it was interesting. And what people were doing is determining through latency, which I never really got a clear answer on it. They were determining through some of the latency on Signal. I think they referred it to as the ping attack. They could determine if you were on the phone or on the desktop. But the question I didn't really see answered is, I'm on both. So if I have my phone open, but my desktop is on and collecting Signal messages, what ping response are you getting? I don't know. And I don't know what that gets you other than, oh, Tom's using his phone right now. I mean, it is metadata. It is a leak of some level of data of, hey, you have figured out through the latency that I'm on phone. But then again, what if I was on a Starlink connection and using a desktop and with Signal loaded? Would that also increase the latency in a different way? And could you determine if I was on there? I mean, that's metadata, and I think that's, concerning in some ways, but it's not the same as seeing my messages. It's obviously, we don't want any metadata collected about us, but yeah, interesting research. And I think that companies will address this. It's not easy to address that, but at least it was not broken. You just installed Signal. You've been meaning to do that for a while. Yeah, I really like the Signal. For those of you that have noticed, and many of you, not many, actually, I should say not many, I have a handful of people that I've mentioned this to, and I've said it on live streams before. If you go to launchsystems.com and you go down to the bottom, you'll find how to contact me via Signal. that goes to my phone. Me, not to a third party. That is my signal. Part of the reason I have so many people on Signal. Is that in a browser? Yes. If you can look for the DNS over HTTPS inside of browsers. If you do a quick Google search of how to set DNS over HTTPS in a browser, you'll find that. Let's see. Would love you to check out NFS over S3 over RDMA for one of your TrueNAS servers. Not likely. I don't have a immediate plan to do that. It also, right, RDMA only works on, I mean, for RDMA to work, and this is the part that I think is overlooked. It's not just the server. The components in between need to support the RDMA. I don't have all the components in between right now. I mean, I have some clients that do, but I can't really do a demo on client work. So I have commercial clients that certainly have all the components they need for, RDMA, but that's an expensive switch, an expensive setup to do, and I don't have laying around. Maybe someone like Patrick from Serve the Home will do a video on it, but I don't really see me doing a video on it anytime soon. It just isn't worth my time to set it up, or I should say to buy the hardware. It's one of those, it's novel, but it's when people realize what does a I mean, there's probably some used ones. What does a switch cost? Can we look on eBay? I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit more complicated. Maybe I'll partner with my friends at 45 Drives. Maybe they've done a video or they have some of that hardware. Maybe it's worth talking to them about. But it's also the complexity of it is part of the problem. Oh, here, cute cat videos. So the cat likes Cat 6. The cat loves Cat 6. I thought someone would be amused by that. So the cat certainly loves Cat 6. That made me happy today. Well, it's making me happy yesterday. Because now we can start talking about broken servers. Because that's what this is. Yeah, this is the metadata that they would get. The goal of the ping attack was to find out what device you were active on for location and which one is locked, so hoping to arrest you when it's unencrypted. That's the idea. And if you are someone who is potentially facing that, you should probably put a password, not just on your phone, and password, not biometrics. Biometrics is something you are, and you can be compelled to provide biometrics because it's something you are, not something you know. You cannot be compelled for a password. So if you put a password on your Signal and a password on your phone, not a biometric login, it's not just a matter of being unencrypted. It's really challenging because even with me locking my computer, until it's off, it's going to ping at both places. So I don't know. It's edge cases, but hey, for some people, those edge cases might matter. Any recommendation on hardware for building a low-powered NAS and use HDD for storage? The prices of many days are rising quite a lot, and I didn't grab one in time. It's tough all over. Matter of fact, see if I can drag this over here. Because I was shocked at this number myself. So this kind of plays into my NAS problems I was having. Let's go to screenshots. Yeah, I can drag a screenshot over. Look at that. Look at that price. This is from a few years ago. I bought some recertified drives. So this is a recertified drive that I paid $137 for. Years ago, like almost 3 years ago, I bought this drive. Works fine. I needed some more because another one died. What do you think that drive costs today? Throw that one in the comments. So a few years ago, a 14 terabyte drive recertified was $137. And so, yeah, it is more than doubled in price. Yeah, the recertified, those same Seagates too. They're Seagate Exos ones recertified now are about $300. Oh, just, yeah, people seeing the numbers there. $4.99, not yet, but of course, I didn't check the price an hour ago, and it could be that high. So whoever said 300 is the winner. I think there's a 360, 330 so far. I think it's the closest. You guys are, yeah, 250 to 300. It's crazy what they cost. It is wild. Do I like Apple as a content creator instead of Linux? I think DaVinci, I don't know. I prefer Linux. I still find Apple quirky, but workable. My big picture is I prefer Linux, but DaVinci Resolve, it works so much buttery smooth faster on specifically the Mac M hardware. I have the Mac M4 Studio. It works so well. It's crazy. And it costs less than my Linux computer that doesn't run it quite as fast. I can render faster for less money and the edit's smoother. So I'm at this weird compromise of I'm running a Mac because it's what's affordable. And actually, it was affordable when I bought it last year. Nothing's affordable this year. We've thrown affordable out the door. So it's definitely, it's crazy what these drives are costing. Actually, someone had messaged me. I was talking to a friend. They went to Micro Center and paid the high price of buying RAM, but also were able to sell their old system for so much because, their old system went from old and not very useful to they actually got a lot of money for their old system and it made the upgrade less painful. So there's that. If you're selling something older, it has far more value now than it probably did when you bought it new. How do I like the UniFi 10 update now that I've had time to play with it? We've been updating more systems to it. No issues. I can't say no issues. I will say I don't know that it's 10 related at all. And I don't think my friend opened a ticket on it, but we did have trouble moving the MC lag switches over. I don't know. We were moving them from one server to another, and I don't know if that's a 10 issue, if it's an MC lag switch issue. I don't know. But outside of that, I can't point to any other issues. So far, it's worked. Like, I haven't had any bugs or problems at all. Yeah, I think, I like the project that's working there. I would rather, Mac has really nice hardware, and I would love running Linux on it, but that's not where we're at today. Not as smooth as it runs on Mac. I still have and use, I was going to move it, but I don't feel like I'm plugging it. I got my Framework laptop, which I'm still really happy with. It works quite well. Like, it's been it's been pretty good. Now, I have found some quirkiness since I moved from Ubuntu to Pop! OS. And I don't know how to solve it yet because it's not something it's easy to reproduce, but it's only with Steam games. So it's, I can't tell if I'm facing this game doesn't work well with Steam problem or if I'm facing a Pop! OS doesn't like this game problem. I may just dual boot Windows on it if I have to, just to solve, because I hate, I do complicated stuff all day. I just sometimes want the game to play the game. I kind of get, the older I get sometimes, and the more I do a lot of work on tech, like the server you see taken apart behind me here, sometimes after you're done doing that all day, you know what you want to do? You want to play a game that works and not spend a whole lot of time chasing down input problems on Steam. Just throwing it out there. Oh, the thing is, it's probably a Wayland issue. I would actually say, I don't know if it's a Wayland issue. It's all input problems. I have a problem that no one else seems to have encountered, and I don't know what to do about said problem. I have a game, first-person shooter, Insurgency Sandstorm. Once in a while, when you log in and start the game, you can't 360 when you spin with the mouse. You can't 360. You can only go roughly, and it doesn't have an exact measurement, but it's roughly 340 degrees, and then it stops. If you spin the mouse the other way, you go 340 degrees the other way, and then it stops. I got nothing. All I have to do is reboot the computer, log back into the game, and it works. And it may not do it again. I can reboot the computer 5 more times. It may not do it. But sometimes I boot the computer up, I log into Insurgency Sandstorm, and I can only turn roughly 340 degrees. And I don't know why. I can't, there's not an error. I can log in and log out of the game, and it does the same thing again. Rebooting fixes it every time, but it only does it once in a while. Those are dumb problems. So, yes. Oh, I got the crab game, so that's on my to-do list to play that. So, solve Pop! OS by going to Debian. I might try just formatting in Debian on it. I got nothing to lose. It's not hard to reload it. So that is something I am definitely considering. Is there a way to upgrade TrueNAS 2504 to 25010 without wipe and restall? Yeah, you can do in-place upgrades with TrueNAS. Matter of fact, some of my TrueNAS boxes have done a whole lot of in-place upgrades. If we look at my typing problems today. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. I have been in place upgrading this ever since since before version 22. I started running out of space and started deleting some of the old ones. So this thing's been for years doing in place upgrades over and over and over again. So that you can completely do in place upgrades for a long time in TrueNAS. Oh, never use copper clad aluminum. Avoid that. So let's just say avoid all copper clad aluminum. So yes, definitely bad. Yeah, I might look at something. See, I want I don't have these problems in Ubuntu, so I just wanted to try the latest Pop! OS, and I like the latest Pop! OS, but I don't know how to solve. I have a couple other input problems where sometimes I launch games and the controllers just don't work. I reboot the computer and the controller works. It goes into the game, the mouse works, but I can't, WASD doesn't work. But I don't know. But the crab game works fine, so I don't know. So it's strange because there's not error message I can really chase down. And that's another problem. Some of the anti-cheat, if I want to play the online games, doesn't work in Linux. And yeah, so it's tough. Yeah, I would think it seems like something catching the cursor outside the game and in a screen edge. I would agree with that. I don't know how to prove it. I can Alt-Tab. The weird thing is I can Alt-Tab and use the OS and then go back into the game and it still does the same thing. So I don't know where it's catching it. I've played with this more than I should have. And it really, I got to the point of, I went up, my wife has a Switch. And I went and played the Switch. I just didn't play Mario for a little while because I'm like, I don't want to deal with this right now. So many options. Recommendation for brand cabling. Vertical cable's not bad. I've had good luck with them. As long as you're not getting the copper clad aluminum stuff, you're good. I can't remember the cable brands as much. When I had a wiring crew, the wiring crew staff, had strong opinions on cable. And I let them buy whatever they had strong opinions on because it made them happy. And I only wanted to make them happy. I wasn't worried about... The price difference was minimal between a lot of the cables. So happier people who do wiring was my goal. So I let them choose whatever. Yeah, you will definitely have PoE problems if you are running the copper clad aluminum. You're not using an old mouse with a ball. Nope, I have a, what is this here? This is the mouse because it's sitting next to here for the laptop. Oh, the big old, I do like this laptop. I mean, look at that. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's everyone. There's always going to be someone complaining, Tom, it's overpriced or this, that. You're right. I'm not going to argue with you on the price of this thing. It's not cheap. The Framework laptop is amazing, but it is not an inexpensive laptop. Nothing I can do about that. Actually, I'm going to shut it off. I don't need it on anymore. I should probably start talking about my NAS that blew up because I think that's one of the things people want to hear about, right? All right, power this thing down. Confirm, off. There we go. All of my laptops, I buy the same D brand skin. I forget what it's called now. I don't remember the name of it. If you find it, so if you look for the shiny skins, it's really reflective. This is on all my laptops. I have a couple laptops that I take, and even my MacBook, it's got the same one on there. I like it a lot. Happy staff, happy life. Have they ever been? No. Trust me, the staff were very good and knew exactly. We bought from commercial companies as we scaled up, and we'd need like 400 boxes of cable. We were buying from larger commercial locations, so they don't even sell that stuff. I mean, I bought a lot of it from Amazon because many times I could find a really good deal on Amazon. But as prices, like cable prices have overall, I don't know where they're at today because I haven't done it in a couple of years. They used to be a lot more expensive and they came down. So we started dealing with some of the commercial vendors, and yeah. Yuka replay on the Switch. All right, I'll check that out. I am always for people suggesting games. I am open to suggestions for games. I'm more of a side scroller. I've looked that game up. I don't know. I'm more of a side scroller. So yeah. Let's see. If you in-place upgrade TrueNAS, you probably don't want to rush to upgrading to feature flags. I have a video I've talked about that for TrueNAS. And one of the things I want to point out is when you do the update, I brought this up as well. Oh, cool. Jeff must be watching. He just sent me something. I'll pull that up. Jeff has, let's see. Oh, wrong screen. Drag it over here. Oh. Interesting. Jeff from Craft Computing just linked this to me. So this is a, I'll throw it and link all to you guys too. So here's it's an affiliate link. So you guys know in case you click on it. It's actually a pretty basic little board here. How many SATA? Oh, it's got some, look at those connectors on there. Look at that. It's a neat little NAS board. This is a suggestion from Jeff over at Craft Computing. So kind of cool. Let me throw that link in there so make it easy to find. Anyways, I got sidetracked. So yes, feature flags. When you do an update, the ability to, I've done a video on how to update TrueNAS and roll back TrueNAS. And I do have a warning in that video that says, when you do it, don't upgrade the ZFS feature flags if you update, if you're worried about rolling back. It's kind of the safety net. And not every update to TrueNAS has ZFS updates. So only if there are ZFS updates. And TrueNAS allows you to use older versions of ZFS, even though you're using a new version of TrueNAS. And if those features aren't set, you may not get some enhancements, but you still have the ability to roll back. But if you roll to a new version of ZFS and then you try to roll back to an old version of TrueNAS that doesn't support that version of ZFS, then you got a problem. So that's the long and short of that. Just want to thank you, Tom. Mrs. Happy. Now she can see it's on her new gaming rig. Try Impossible Lair for side scrollers, done by the team who did original DKC. Oh, okay, cool. Does the UniFi firewall NAT outbound traffic on WireGuard? Does NAT outbound traffic on WireGuard by default? I think so. Yeah, you're asking like if you set up a site to site with WireGuard, then it's going to go out like with. Yes, I believe if I understand your question, the answer is yes. But back to the NAS. Let's talk about that real quick. I don't know if I've solved the problem with this. We have taken it apart. I cleaned all the dust out of it because it was apart. So we did that. But these drives here, I don't know, but I wrote the word power on this one. And the reason I did that is because I am puzzled on this drive. If I put this drive in here, and these other drives have had some problems as well, but this one in particular, each grouping of the drives on that, I guess you call it like a rail of where the drives plug in on the 45 drives unit, each grouping is groups of 5. When this drive is in, occasionally all 5 drives next to it go away at random times, like once a week. It's a real hard problem to fix because I would say it happens under load because it seems to happen more often under load. But even when you simulate a load, you can't always make it happen. But about once a week, it would cause 5 drives that were next to it to go out. This took a lot of troubleshooting to figure out which drive caused the other 4 to go out. But we removed this drive and the problem seems to have subsided. But that doesn't make a lot of sense because this drive is now in another NAS and it works fine. And I'm still working on the video for all the troubleshooting steps I've gone through, but it's not easy because I don't know why it's not doing it anymore. And it doesn't do it in another NAS. But why? And it's weird. By the way, this is not the first time I've run into that problem. Do you see this drive that says weird issue? This drive was the one I bought, if the screenshot I shared earlier, which is somewhere, of this. So I bought this drive. Notice the same drives here to replace this one a couple years ago. Literally like 2 or 3 years ago, I bought one of these drives. That's why you see just one to replace this one. Because this one was causing a very similar problem. It would cause other drives to go crazy and I would remove it and the other drives would all be fine. But now, and I never threw these drives out, so I just set them aside. And now all of these drives are in another system and I've dumped tons of data to it and they won't break. But they do not like the LSI controller in the 45 drives box. I have 2 45 drives boxes that both have LSIs and it has a problem in both of those. But I have another one that doesn't have an LSI and it works in there. So I don't know, do I have a drive problem? And by the way, the drive worked for 3 years before it had the problem. So there was 3 years of usage on these drives before I ever had a problem with them. And now I'm a couple years after removing them and put them in something else and they work fine. Now you see how hard this, I'm not sure where to begin. I've been keeping notes on all the steps of testing, but wow, is it a weird problem that is not easily defined because it does it in 2 different NASs, but not a third. So yeah, it has been fun to troubleshoot. It's strange. And I could say, yeah, power delivery with the PSU or the backplane, but there's 24 drives in the system. So, and let's check right now to make sure they're still working. Let's log in. Yeah, the drives are working fine. So there is currently I have 2 drives as spares right now, just to have them. And if you view the disks, there are the 20 drives in here. Yeah. Because 2 of them, 22 drives because 2 of them are for the boot pool. But yeah, it stopped having all the problems and is working fine now. I also rebuilt them as mirrors. That was actually the easier way to find the problem, was to have it as mirrors, because it would fault the right. It would tell me which drive couldn't write as opposed to the group. So it narrowed the errors down by I blew away all the data and just said, screw this, I'm doing mirrors just to find the problem. It's not storage efficient. I'm leaving it as mirrors for a little bit longer, but when we start dumping all the data back to it, I may reconfigure this not in mirrors, because look at the capacity of only 126 terabytes. It was closer to like 170 terabytes when it was in RAID Z, because it's so many drives. So yeah, there's 20 drives and 2 unassigned. I just have 2 extras in here, just because. Those are spares at the moment in case something goes wrong. But yeah, this is a hard problem to solve. And I did try another LSI controller thinking it was the controller. Yeah, that one did the same thing. Could it be an issue with the backplane and the board layer short within your drives are? I thought that too, but I put another drive in the same spot and it works. So I've been shuffling the drives in and out, but I also took it apart trying to find the problem, and I couldn't see anything with the circuit boards. So really strange problem. Disk firmware versus LSI issue. Possibly. I did update the firmware on drives. I have gone through some of that. The weirdest part is they worked for a while. No firmware changes to the LSI, no firmware change to drive. They worked for a few years, stopped working, and only certain drives stopped working. Those couple drives I had in a picture, actually 2 of them in specific. The other ones have a couple bad sectors, unrelated. The drives with bad sectors actually work fine. They just have some bad sectors. They don't have any of the other weird issues. But once a drive has 23, 24 bad sectors, I take it out of service. I don't want to deal with the problem. I know there's people who the question has come up. What's your threshold of tolerance for bad sectors? Well, it depends on how critical the system is. Actually, the system is all backup now, so it's much less critical. But it's not conveniently located in my server room. It's in a remote location. So when a drive has bad sectors, I pop it out. Some people will. I've definitely tolerated bad sectors in my local stuff because I have spares. I'm like, I'll let them ride, let them go a little longer. I'm not worried about it. If it's a RAID Z2 array and one of the drives has a few bad sectors, let it ride. That's just risk tolerance. I always see Trinity in your videos. Do you have a video showing the system? I've done several reviews, 2 of them specifically, and I guess I could do a third. But if you look up Q30 on my YouTube channel, you'll find that physical server. I tore it all apart. I've reviewed it twice. I've reviewed it once when I got it and a few years after I got it. So Q30 is the model number from 45 drives that is. And if you punch Q30 in my YouTube channel, you find the reviews. Does another drive work without issue in that location? Yep, works fine. That actually is reshuffling the drives. The problem follows the drive. That's something I did notice, I guess you could say. Possible bad caps on a drive can't maintain stable power. Maybe. I don't know why it doesn't work on LSI, but it works in a non-LSI. I can't remember what I do not have the notes in front of me. I know it's a non-LSI. I think it's a non-LSI. It's a very different controller that it's plugged into right now. The different controller plugged into works, but it did fault once in the new controller. It just decided it wasn't there, and I rebooted, and it was there, and I can't make it do that again either. So I think I really think it's hard drive problems that are just mysterious. There's no bad sectors. The drives are just flaky. Because as I've replaced these drives and bought several new ones over time, every one I put in, any replacement drive has had 0 issues. The replacement drives are newer and don't have the same manufacture date. Every drive that has a problem was manufactured on December 24th of 2019. Every one of them that's had a problem. Yeah, it will cause that problem in different groups. Kernel driver update? I don't think so. When you host a server in a data center, how do you separate management traffic from production traffic, i.e. VLANs? It depends. I mean, VLANs are adequate, but sometimes if there's enough extra networking, it may be separate networks. Generally, like the IPMI is going to be a separate network, not necessarily a VLAN, but it kind of depends. Ideally, physical networks are nice, but VLANs are a adequate way to configure it. Oh, what is it? These drives have about 5 years on them, so they're not new, but some of them had problems at 3 years, and others had problems now. The last drive has about, I think, close to 5 years on it before the problem. So it worked for 5 years before the problem started. Controller chip RAM has transient fault and gets into silicon degrades over time. Basic bad batch. Yeah, I really feel it's all drive related because the system itself never crashes. It just loses groups of drives. So, I mean, the system crashes because it doesn't crash. It just says, I don't have enough drives to make the pool work. So you have to, it also puts it in a weird power state. You can reboot it and it won't find that group of drives again. But if you power cycle the server, it does. So yeah, these drives are weird. That's why I wrote the word weird on them. But can we zoom in further? Yes, we can. Right there. I'm sure people can see that. December 24th, 2019. And if you look at the other drives, same thing. 24 December 19. Every drive that's had a problem. Now the drives that have not had problems, and I'll move my head out of the way. See, December 4th, 2019. So they're all the same date. This one too. This one just has, the ones that don't have anything on them, like these two here, these just have a couple bad sectors. These are the weird drives because I wrote on them. These just have bad sectors and that's just whatever. They work fine. I think one has 23 bad sectors and one has 24. But I put these back in for, I wanted a third backup. And so these are running a third backup just so I have more data spread across drives. Yeah. So interestingly, someone else had a very similar problem, and it was a weird problem because it wasn't exactly a consulting call. It was someone I talked to. They ended up not hiring me. But we did have a conversation. Let me turn my phone off. All right, here we go. We'll turn my notifications off. I did have an interesting conversation. They had a bunch of problems with their XL60, I think it was. And these drives, these same drives with the same model, the Exos X16 14 terabyte. The solve for them was they bought, I think they said it was a Seagate JBOD. And when they put all the drives in the Seagate JBOD, they never had problems again. And I found that fascinating. It's anecdotal. I don't have enough evidence, but they had a lot of weird, quirky, pool wasn't working problems. And they kept blaming the server. And they bought a second XL60. And they put all the drives in a second XL60, and it had the same problems again. But when they put the drives in a Seagate JBOD, they did not have problems anymore. Now, I have, full disclosure, I am a reseller for 45 drives. I have sold many XL60s. But because I've sold them more recently, they have much newer, much bigger drives in them. And I've never, ever had this problem with a single one I sold. If I did, I would certainly be very vocal about it because these are servers that cost several $100,000 with that many drives in them. And they work fine. Matter of fact, 45 drives has bet their reputation on them working fine. So this is very limited, I think, to these Exos X16 14 terabytes. I've found two people that seem to have this problem. I have a third person who hasn't told me what drives they had, but they heard me talk about it and they messaged me. And so I'm going to engage with one more person and ask them specifically, do they have these drives? And that would be a fun piece of information to do this write-up. It's been driving me crazy if you can't tell. We had a failure of Seagate on an X24 Exos drive in less than 12 months on the brand. Brand new replacement was faulty immediately. Second replacement played nice. Put it down to bad luck. Yeah, I generally have a ton of these out in the field. Not this specific one, but lots of the larger Seagate Exos drives and newer generation ones. No problems. I have clients that have been running these for years and they aren't complaining. So is the firmware same on all the drives? Yes. It's the same on all the ones inside the TrueNAS, but these ones, because I pulled them out of the TrueNAS server, I did update the firmware out as a hope to fix it, and it didn't. So these ones in the picture behind here that are now removed have had their firmware updated, but it didn't solve the problem. Do I think Cloud Init reconfigs will come to Zen? Really holding back for switching to XGP. I don't really use Cloud Init, so I'm not much of an expert in it. I know Zen supports Cloud Init. I just don't really know. I'm not enough of a Cloud Init expert to tell you what a Cloud Init reconfig is. I know Zen supports Cloud Init. I'm assuming reconfig is it asks again, but I didn't think that was a function of the, like if the OS, or I should say hypervisor supports Cloud Init, I thought it would automatically check it again unless you told the operating system not to. Like I said, not a Cloud Init expert because I don't use it. Oh, by the way, these are SATA, not SAS, if anyone's wondering. If you couldn't see, it says on the drive SATA, but yeah, that's a good point too. The SAS drives generally seem to be a little bit more thoroughly tested. At least I feel they are. Maybe it's in my head, but I don't seem to run into these issues with the SAS drives. Yeah, I have used Backblaze to look that up as well, which is fair. What hardware RAID controller would you recommend in Homelab in 2026? I would never recommend a hardware RAID controller, not in 2025, 2024, 2020. Go back several years. I don't recommend hardware RAID. So if you're looking at an HBA, generally speaking, LSI is good. HBAs are not RAID. HBAs are for, maybe I need to do a video on this because I think a lot of people get confused about it. You want, when you're using ZFS specifically, you want something that gives direct access to the drives. An LSI HBA controller can do that. Kind of coming back to, because what controller's on this? This is a neat little board that Jeff sent. I'm really out of the loop when it comes to building hardware. I just don't build many things anymore. So then this seems to have the little SAS connector on it there. The SFF SATA 5.8, SATA 5.4. Am I understanding that correctly? That I'd have to look that up for what that supports. Switching chips connected to PCIe cable to pull out SATA 3. Double has 8 SATA 3.0 in total. Okay, so this will support up to, yep, that's what I thought. This has the controller built in, so you get one of these cables right here, and you're able to connect a bunch of drives. This is a cool little board. Thank you, Jeff from Craft Computing, for sending it. Reports indicate that Seago X14 drive specifically can cause system-wide issues, including drive RAID. Here, if you want to send me that, I mean, I could probably look it up. But if you email me, Tom@Lawrence Systems, and feel free to send me that. I mean, if you have a link to an article, I'd love to have it so I don't have to search for it. That's interesting. So Yeah, email me that article or send it over Signal or whatever communication method you find comfortable. So, fiber channel. I don't see it as much as I used to. It's still out there. It still exists. Just Google Seagate Exos causing other drives to fail. Interesting. I will definitely look that up. I'm just going to put that up and so it's in my search history. Yeah, someone has the whole write-up on those. All right, cool. You know, I don't spend a lot of time distro hopping. I want to catch up a little bit maybe on it. I don't know. I've always been happy with Pop OS. I'm not unhappy with Pop OS, the new version, except for it doesn't like games. But then again, Linux gaming is its own quirkiness. And maybe I should try one of the other things like Catchy OS or one of the other options out there. Was it Bazite and a few others? There's options for Linux gaming. I also might just dual boot my system back to Windows because Windows just works and I just want to make the game work. So, but not to hash that again. Did you see that UniFi Elgato is employed to plug-in for the Steam Deck? That's neat. I guess it's novel to display UniFi information in your Steam Deck. I don't have a use case for it, but someone does, clearly. You know, I want to press a button and change my Wi-Fi to on and off. So there's that. I also, I spent some time today purging lots of data. Let me see how much data is left on this now. That was one of the projects today was going, why do I have all of this? Some of the stuff is I had lots of archive. Yeah, I'll probably finish purging this. I've been going through and going, why do I have all of these old things? Like now that I've sold my MSP, I already had purged any client data I had a long time ago. We used to have an auto tool that validated that we had all the client data off. Sometimes you have to do backups for clients. I kept them all encrypted. I did everything I could to protect that data. But also after your client picked it up, I didn't delete it the day they picked something up. Like if you backed up a laptop because you had to do a repair, or you backed up a server because you had to do a repair, we would within 30 days, we'd validate the data was back at the client, make sure they had backups going again, it's part of the service, and then I would purge all the data. So that data is long gone, but the other data, like I have to maintain records for invoicing and things like that. So I pruned that down to the minimal, but I also had like a lot of other client documentation stuff that's encrypted. Now that got transported into CNWR and they put it all in their system. And then when I left CNWR, I was like, cool, but I had a couple backup archives and I decided I don't need those anymore. Now they were 2 layers of encryption deep, so I wasn't overly worried about it because they were just backups that you had to first unlock the backups with 1Password in ZFS, and then if you restored it, it was an encrypted VM that also needed a password to boot. So, I wasn't overly worried about someone getting at them, but I decided to purge all of that. And I had tons of historical data for things like Screen Connect and all those things. I'm like, I used to keep backups of all the versions just because I had so much space to do so. And now I realize I don't need any of it. So I purged terabytes of data today. I was just like, it's gone. Yeah. It was crazy getting rid of, it was kind of strange. Like I was like, I feel like, what if someone said, Tom, in 2022, do you have a copy of that Screen Connect? Because there's something I need to look at forensically. I could do that, but now I can't. I have evicted it all. It's all gone. Years of old stuff. All my old Graylog stuff is purged. Because I kept all my Graylog logs. I had a ton of storage, so I've always had a lot of storage. And for testing, I used to just set it all up so all my storage would just keep it for extra long time. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe you want that Graylog, syslog data that's all organized in there from years ago. I decided I don't need it anymore. So it's all been purged. It's good to purge. I've realized even duplicated backups. I also purged something else that I probably could have kept. It wasn't very big, but I don't know what else to do with it. I used to run a retail computer store. I used to do all the flyers and things like that in Photoshop. That dates back to 2007, 2008. I had all of the graphics I ever did. I just don't care about all the original sources. Like I kept the output, but I finally said, why do I have just all these PSD files that I will never look at again? So I finally scrapped all those as well. Is there a best practice for TrueNAS on how to save your sysconfigs regularly? Cron job, built-in function. I don't really. So my process, this goes not just for TrueNAS, but for pfSense or really anything I'm configuring. When I make config changes, first, I double check that I have a backup of it before I make it. Sometimes I make a backup before I make the config changes, but generally, because of the process I follow, this is not really a concern. I make config changes and then I do a backup. And the same thing today. I was reconfiguring my TrueNAS and I was rebuilding because the server that got broke meant I had to send all my replication tasks somewhere else because it was more, I keep more than one backup. So I redid some of these replication tasks. And after I redid them all, I back up again. So I reconfigured all of this and then I do a backup. You don't need ongoing backups because if you're not changing anything, then why do another backup? It's nothing changed. You only really need a backup if you change things. So after I make these changes, I backed it up. That's generally my process. And then I realized I didn't do a backup of this particular server for 9 months or whatever it was, whenever the last update was. But there's not a reason to because nothing changed. There's no configuration changes made to the server. So I only back up based on configuration changes. That's my rule, but there are definitely tools out there. I don't think there's anything natively built in I'm aware of, but you can certainly build a cron job to export the config and send it somewhere on a regular basis. You could do that. So it's something you can do. It's just not something I usually do when it comes to backups. Yeah, watching the lifetime on your snapshots is definitely a thing. You don't want the snapshots to, oops, not what I wanted. You don't want to have too many snapshots. So when you're looking at the data protection, view snapshots, if you get this really overloaded, it will take time. This is an older server that I was going to retire, but I'm not paying the ransom for memory right now. So this server is going to hang out longer. It's not terribly slow. It's fast enough for 10 gig video editing, and that's all I really care about. But yeah, you don't want to go crazy on the snapshots. You can end up with kind of a problem in there. And you notice even these snapshots, I do have it doing 0-byte snapshots, but because sometimes there's no changes. It runs a snapshot every day, and even if there's not a change, it's just keep things consistent. Because this is specifically the system I use for my video editing. You notice there's not a lot on here. Matter of fact, there's not a ton of storage used on it. I keep things relatively purged. So this was using 60%, and I brought it down to 31 today because I said, why do I have all this data? I also started purging some of the I don't purge B-roll, but I started purging larger parts of my video archive, like my narrative. Me and I think Jeff did a talk about that before. Jeff from Craft Computing. It's one of those things how much do you keep as a YouTuber? I keep all finished videos, but the components you use to make the video, do I need to keep them all? I like keeping B-rolls. I might reference it, but I never really reference talking head Tom again. Once I've taken a video and taken the narrative and cut it down to whatever it's going to be, it's a whole lot less data once it's processed and exported. So why do I need those outtakes? Sometimes they're not even outtakes. They're like me clicking and waiting on something and I'm trimming out all the wait time. So the large original narrative file is huge, and it's then made shorter to make the video more concise. And why should I keep those? So I started purging a lot more data. That's why I have all the way going back to 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, of video archives, and it's still only using 16 terabytes of data. It's just not a lot. And this is not just the video. There's other things in here too. But yeah, purging helps a lot with this. Yeah, you do similar. You double check that a backup has been made, and then you make the change and confirm it's working. Yep. Yeah, you don't want to get too much of a delay getting space back after a purge. This is something I thought about doing. I have an upcoming video I'm working on called ZFS torture testing, but some of the things you can do, and certainly some of the things I've learned people do, I've had people that want to do a snapshot every minute. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. And people do things like create thousands and thousands of snapshots. They may even create 100,000 snapshots. And it turns out ZFS will let you create an incredible number of snapshots. And then the server will have some of the weirdest behavior because no one ever expects the volume of snapshots this person created. So the replication tasks, if you try to run them, would spend so much time indexing snapshots. They would literally never get to finish before so many more snapshots would be done. It was a crazy problem that I didn't immediately realize the problem until I seen the volume of snapshots and the person's retention on all of them. The system was stuck indexing snapshots all the time. So there's sane and rational ways to do these things. Not everybody does things in a sane, rational way with TrueNAS. We'll just say that. What record size do you use at your data sets for video editing? You going with 1 meg? I should, but I just have not. I know if I were to take this data set, and I'm pretty sure I never changed it, it would probably be better if I changed this to 1. But I've also, out of laziness, ain't broke, don't fix it. Some people get so tied up into tuning things that they end up causing an issue. I can edit at 10 gig, so I don't bother tuning it further. If I was performance restricted and having problems, yeah, I might take the time to adjust a record size that would be something better for all the large files that are in here. And it probably makes sense to do so. But you'll find a lot of times I leave it at default. If I'm not at a potential problem for the performance, I just don't bother changing the defaults. And there's actually a little bit more media in there. Majority of the media, the larger part of the media, is all the large video files, but there's also tons of tiny files that get written because it's such a fast drive. It's a series. If you can't guess by its names, flashy. It's all a flash array. The DaVinci Resolve scratch drive is also located there. So it writes out lots of little pieces all the time. So I'm getting some efficiency on storage on that. Yeah. So you can tune it to be faster. It's just whether or not you need to. Think the biggest mess you got yourself into is about 300 snapshots? Yeah. IX systems and vendor lock-in. I don't see it as vendor lock-in. I like IX systems. And are you talking about, is there hardware vendor lock-in? If you bought one of the TrueNAS M50s and you're using the high availability, I mean, it is unique to their chassis, the way high availability works, but I don't understand the vendor lock-in. It's ZFS. It's open ZFS and it's open source. You can take your data. I can take these pools and I can export any one of these pools. Well, disconnect them. Don't have to really export. I can bring them into any system running the same or newer version of ZFS. This is just Debian. And if you load Debian and load ZFS on Debian, you can import these pools without TrueNAS. So there's not really any vendor lock-in that I'm aware of. So I don't really know maybe I don't understand the question, but I don't feel as though I'm locked in. I can certainly use something else. I like TrueNAS because one of the biggest things I like about TrueNAS, besides the UI is good, and there's a ton of tools in here to make management easier, but the ZFS replication is so nice. Like handling snapshots and replication tasks, this is so easy to do. It just works. And then they have an API where, and I've talked about this before, because we can go here and I can work. I got a whole video on this and I give the template away. I need to do more stuff on here, but is it stuck? I did play with things. There's a chance I broke things. Yeah, I think it can't reach one of the servers. So it's going, hey. But you get the idea that you can build workflows. You can build, I have the video I did on this, and you can build workflows. You can monitor all these servers and all this fun stuff, and it works. Well, when it works, it's great. When it's not working, it just spins. Try that again. There we go. I don't think the page had loaded all the way. Workflow successfully completed. And here's what that looks like. Oh, it actually completed both times. Gives me status reports, and these are across all my NASs. It pulls all the backup jobs. It lets me know what they're doing. TrueNAS has just done a nice job of not just giving you some nice tools, but also giving you an API where you can do your own tooling on it. So yeah, I really like the whole TrueNAS thing. Snapshot's not a backup. Yes. Special VDEV for little files. Yes, I just talked about that in a video. Too long didn't watch. Yes, special VDEV for little files is a good thing. Cheers from Central New York. Bummed that hardware prices are skyrocketing. We've had fun building an AI rig. Yeah, it does suck for especially the new PC builders. I was reading something the other day about large record size being bad for flash. So does that change the 1 meg advantage? There's nuance. There's the write-rewrite problem. Me and Alan Jude, I believe, talked about that. If you look up Alan Jude, we dove deeper into it. It's a lot of nuance, and it's not an answer of yes or no. It's all of it depends. I made the jump for Windows storage spaces in TrueNAS. Has been phenomenal in terms of flexibility, understanding what's going on, and options for vendors, hardware, and software. Yes, MS is not great. Does the motherboard natively support SAS? I think if you're referring to the motherboard here, I don't think this one said SAS. I think it said SATA. Yep, I only see the word SATA right here. So if you're referring to this motherboard, then that's my answer. Yeah, we are not locked in with lag systems. They are locked in with us. I do like that, for those of you that know the reference. I had sales call lag systems, and they were really open about being able to use anything we liked with any system we bought from them. It sounded like the opposite of vendor lock-in. Now, there is, and this is one of those things that people have a hard time understanding from the Homelab world, but once you wander into the enterprise space, the enterprise space has a question. They say, I want this many IOPS. I want this much performance, whatever those numbers might be. They have a spec they want reached. The problem with reaching a spec, you can certainly reach a spec with your random hardware, but when you're calling someone who also, like myself, I'm an IX system reseller, and you go, I want these specs guaranteed, I do not hand you a parts list. I can contact IX Systems. I can do the same thing with 45 drives, and we will prescribe the hardware. But if you start saying, oh, I don't want the LSI controller, I want this one, or I don't like this hard drive, I'd prefer to go buy my own, I will no longer guarantee those specs. That is something you run into. It's not about lock-in. It's about what's been validated to work. And when you're saying I want something validated to work and guaranteed to work, absolutely. Because sometimes people reach out to me going, hey, I don't want to pay what insert name of company wants to charge. I want to build it myself. But I also want you to guarantee this random list of parts that I'm trying to find the best deal on will work the way I expect it to. And I tell people, no, I will not do that. I will not take your money. I will not, I can, if you really want me to take your money and tell you like some decent choices, but I will offer zero guarantees that there are not any bugs with these systems. Kind of roll back to our Seagate conversation we were just having a little while ago. Generally speaking, the companies that sell something do the testing to validate that they can provide the service. I know there's a lot of hate for Synology, but the enterprise Synology for a long time, their larger systems have always required you get the very specific drives in order to meet the spec that they were asking. So that one. Wasn't there, I think you mean CVE, there's been numerous CVEs. They're not just one, but many. So N8N has had a lot of updates because there's been a lot of people using it. The rise in popularity has certainly found the soft edges and soft underbelly of N8N. I think a lot of the problems, and I don't know I didn't even look up the last ones. I seen the news article. I just didn't click on it. I just update. So I know I'm patched for them. I just don't know the details of all of them. But a handful of them required, at least the first ones I looked at, they required someone to already have access. So let's say I grant someone access to my N8N, but I've limited their scope and privileges. One of them was a privilege escalation, so that person could grab more control, which is a concern. It's definitely a problem. But from an attack vector, it required someone to be able to have an account on my system and then execute code to raise that privilege or, bypass it. I think a couple of them were exposed. If you're using webhooks, that was a problem, but it also took certain conditions and certain things. So it's not like automatically you're pwned by having this. It's kind of like, yeah, this should be fixed. Hopefully you don't run the configuration that's vulnerable. So, but yeah, there's like anything, the company's been very responsive, and that's what I care about. It is that they're responsive when there's a problem and that they go, hey, there's problems. We've acknowledged it. Security researchers poked at it, and we are now fixing it and making a publication. So for clarity, we looked at the main system from IX, and they said to build your own additional systems for backup, etc. Oh yeah, that something we've run into quite frequently is where if it's a secondary system, because people just want an extra copy of their data, absolutely. I mean, if you have the budget, awesome, buy a handful of brand new servers. A lot of times people go, I can buy 2 backups and have 2 extra backups. So not just one offsite, but 2 separate offsite backups of used systems, cheaper than buying one brand new one for the backups. So yeah, there's reasons. And I say used, but I mean, I'm talking like refurbished enterprise hardware that comes with a warranty. I've bought a lot of stuff from like server part deals and what's their place? Tech Supply Direct. Both of those places got great deals on several used servers and created resiliency on a budget is how I would describe that. Um, 15 bay drive. It's a real awkward problem to have 15 drives. It's 7 and 7. That's the best. 7 and 7 and a spare. A spare costs a whole lot of money right now though. So there's that. Or you can, let me pull mine up. Here's my HL15. You can do what Tom did here. He's got 7 SATA and 7 standard spinners. So I got to add one more to this. I was playing with it. I only got 6 in here, but there's 7 drives in it. I'm going to rebuild it as a Z2 because this is going to be, these drives have less hours on them. So I'm redoing this as one of my backups. But yeah, that's why I've got, one more 10 terabyte drive left. But yeah, this is a 7-and-7 setup. One bay is empty because I don't really want to buy a spare one of these right now because they're just, yeah. What does a 10 TB? I forget what model these are. I think these are actually 12 terabytes. These drives have been fine. These are ones I bought from I bought these from Server Part Deals. All the snapshot replication functions are absolutely fine going from their branded hardware and anything like, yep. Yeah, if you do a custom built TrueNAS, there's no compatibility between like the enterprise licensed TrueNAS versus the open community TrueNAS. You can replicate back and forth between them. And if you're clever, you can even replicate from TrueNAS to a non-TrueNAS system, provided you follow the steps. It's a little bit trickier to set up ZFS replication, but it can be done. With that many drives, would buying cheap used drives minimize the risk? I mean, you could go if you wanted to have. The problem with having one VDEV, 15 is kind of wide for a VDEV. It's not impossible, but it is a little wide. And you might want to split them up. You're going to get much faster because the problem with one really wide VDEV is definitely performance limitations. But if you split it up into two VDEVs, you get better performance. I don't know. Yeah, these look like they're ST1200. Search real quick. Look at that price tag. I paid way less than that. Is this the 10? Yeah. So let's look somewhere besides Amazon. Wow, those are sold out at $300 a drive. Whew, look at these prices. And I paid a lot less than that. Yeah. How much was it? Yep, here. I gotta grab a screen. I can't. It has my It has a lot of personal details in it, so I'll just grab a screenshot of the part that can't. Whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. See, Max quirky. This should have been easier. We'll grab the screenshot over here. I only paid $149 for the drive. So they are doubled in price. And my order date on this was 2023. I paid in 2023 $149. These drives are now what, $300? That is crazy. That is yeah. It is 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I paid less for these drives than they're worth today. They've doubled in value in 3 years. Yeah, I had a friend, speaking of copper, someone ripped the copper out of his house he was building. I guess that's a thing again. Is the Pop! OS Cosmic ready as a daily driver suite? I don't have any problem. So someone had a post to my forums, and I kind of called them out because they said it wasn't ready, and they said they had a ton of problems. I said, what problems are you having? And they said, Wayland problems. But I'm like, okay, but what Wayland problems? The only bug I like from a daily usage standpoint, the only bug I ran into, not besides the game bugs I've talked about, the only bug I run into is RustDesk is a little weird. And I don't use RustDesk to remote control it, but I use RustDesk as a client on my Pop! OS. It put one icon at the bottom and didn't show me like the RustOS window versus the different clients I was attached to. I always had to like expand the screen out and switch between them. Minor inconvenience. It wouldn't alt tab between them. That's the only bug I found. But if you expanded the windows, you could get to the window. But I imagine there's a way to fix that. I just didn't dig into it. So I don't have a problem with it. Like I do all my accounting and lots of my business work is still done on that Linux laptop. So it seems to do those things fine. Yeah, the rust test issues might be tied to Wayland. Yeah. Are they still making 14 terabyte drives? I don't know. I don't know enough about that world to tell you for sure. My assumption is for cost reasons, if the same manufacturing production line can make a larger drive that they can sell for more money, they probably don't make the older drives. But there's a lot of inventory of the older drives that are recertified, so you can usually acquire those drives. Oh yeah, it has been so crazy trying to quote stuff. We have a client, because they're a very large client, they need to do budgets, and we said we can't help you with next year's budget or 6 months out budget planning. We don't know what things will cost because they need some large storage needs, and we're like, I don't know what storage will cost. If I base it on today's prices with the assumption that they've peaked, I can't guarantee I can sell it to you for that price. But if you can secure at least this much money and you're not buying for 6 months, when your budget opens up to allow for the purchase, maybe it'll be cheaper. Maybe you're going to get more in 6 months, but I don't know. Yeah, quote is valid for 2 hours. We don't know where the prices are going up or down. It's all crazy. Yeah, memory, RAM, and even hard drives are spot priced like a commodity because they are now. It's causing product delays across the board. So companies try to predict like how many units they will have available, and it's become a challenge as well. There's not an easy answer for that. I don't have an answer for it. Is pfSense still relevant? I don't know. I wouldn't say yes. I wouldn't say pfSense is not relevant. But UniFi offering a more complete ecosystem is where a lot of people's heads have gone. It was always one of those things. Like, I think pfSense is absolutely a rock solid firewall. It is well maintained. It's secure, but people want a place to be able to see all of their network, their VLANs, their switches, their Wi-Fi. They want a nice, cohesive, single interface. And that's where UniFi really excels, is creating a cohesive environment that is easy to manage at scale. You know, I've got a ton of sites in the UniFi Site Manager, and it's nice to be able to pop into any one of those particular sites and just have it work. So I don't know that pfSense is irrelevant. I think for especially the home user market, where the features I just said are things that don't matter to home users, then pfSense is fine. Stay with it. And of course, there's going to be some smashing the keyboards of people saying OpenSense and whatever your fancy is. But if you need someone had a post on my forums today, and I haven't really replied because I don't know the exact answer to reply to them yet, but I'll get back to it later. One of the challenges they're running into with UniFi that I don't have an answer for, UniFi does not offer the same amount of flexibility with their VPNs, especially when it comes to the IPsec VPNs. And you're probably thinking, Tom, use WireGuard. Well, that's a great idea, except they have to interface with a I believe it's a medical or EMR tool, but they have to interface with this other upstream customer that runs their line of business application, and it's only interfaced over IPsec. This is something that UniFi doesn't do well. They do not have as many features. It's been a little while since I've really dug into what features are missing, but this is where pfSense has a much broader array of integrations it can do because it has all the features and much more detailed features for things like VPN and IPsec. So when it comes to those needs, if clients go, hey, I need BGP, FRR, and all the real fancy stuff, pfSense is really good. For the majority of people to go, I just want to route traffic, UniFi is quite good. UniFi has gotten much, much better. They've met the needs of the majority. There's always going to be edge cases where you need insert name of something else, and that's fine. That's what other firewalls are for, to meet those edge cases. Yeah, the downside of large drives is the risk of the data being lost on them. So spreading it across a group of smaller drives helps minimize some of that risk, but there's pros and cons to each, because cost per terabyte is a big concern, and cost in general is a super concern right now. I don't believe Ubiquiti uses Kia DHCP or ISC DHCP. I can't remember what they use. We can Google. We have the internet. Does UniFi use? I've never really looked. Someone will type in the comments. I just don't remember. I have looked this up before. I just can't remember the name of the tool that they're using in there. So, someone who's more adept at this, answer that question right there of which one they use. I mean, I can log in and go through, but and nonetheless, they're using. If someone says it, I'll recognize it. So feel free to in the comments here. Why are my services using that much memory? Oh, net data. It's not using much. Things you notice when you're just looking at this. I haven't rebooted this in a long. How many days has this been up? 46 days. It does that sometimes too. If you're not familiar with TrueNAS, every now and then, since updated 25, once in a while, it'll just kind of do that. It'll tell me that it can't refresh. All I do is reload the page and it fixes it. Actually, I did find a completely different UI bug today that did get fixed. So there's an upcoming fix that I found, and I'm happy. So DNS mask. You know, wild fever dream. I had to order 16 256 gig Samsung ECC Reg DDR5. Wow. That's, Jeff from Craft Computing was just talking about, like, it's crazy how much all the even his lab servers are worth right now because he's got so much memory in them. My friend Mike, we've got a ton of storage. We have like over in raw storage, well over a petabyte, I believe, maybe more. Probably, yeah, a little over a petabyte of storage, and that is worth quite a bit right now. So, yeah, crazy times, crazy. We're beating that dead horse, though. Speaking of things, where's this at here? I am breaking things in Proxmox and learning about it. So I am going to build a bunch of stuff in Proxmox. This is all set up with the helper scripts because I just wanted it up and running for a demo. But I'm going to reload and rebuild this thing. One thing I've noticed about Proxmox this is very different to me than XCP-ng, is definitely the updates. There's a lot of updates for Proxmox. I guess they're just Debian updates, but there's still quite a few of them. So if we just click upgrade, it upgrades, right? Yes. This is a change from XCP-ng that it has just regular updates. I don't know. Ooh, we get PV Manager 9.5. Not that updates are bad, but there's a lot of updates. So I am going to be playing a lot more because I have some upcoming videos about Proxmox backup server. Cool. And now we're at 9:15. I already broke Proxmox backup server. I broke it. I need to dig into how I broke it another time. So you need to refresh to get more updates. But wait, there's more. So if we go back over here and we refresh, but wait, there's more. So upgrade these two. All right. See, this is not something you deal with on XCP-ng. I've talked about it, but living with it since I started running this system, yeah, there's a lot of updates. And of course, this update's probably going to want me to reboot because we did some kernel stuff in here. Go, updates, go. Please consider rebooting this node to activate the new kernel. Sure. Why not? Where's the reboot button? There it is. Reboot. Sure, why not? There's nothing production running on it, so it can just reboot anytime. I don't know if I'm going to do a Jellyfin video or not. The reason why... The problem with doing a Jellyfin video is YouTube seems to have decided that talking about media servers is a way to get your channel banned. They've even gone backwards, and Jeff Geerling talked about this. He had a several-year-old video that got his channel flagged because apparently a video he did in, 2023 is now bad. So I don't know where I stand on... I wish YouTube did not do that. But is my channel worth the risk of all the other content I do being risked by doing a content on Jellyfin? There's enough guides out there how to set it up, and for some reason YouTube seems to pick and choose who they pick on. I don't understand their process for it. I think you can try to get it appealed, but I don't know if I want to go through the drama of it. It's the same reason I completely will not do Pi-hole, because I've known numerous people who have gotten in trouble for the mere mentioning of Pi-hole. So yeah, I stay away from those because YouTube seems to slap you for those. I wish I didn't. I like talking about those things, but I can't now. So Yeah. Oh yeah, it's easy to get it up and running. It's such a simple tool. There's plenty of guides out there, and I've thought about, and maybe I'll talk to some more people about making guides, and have people want to do write-ups. You know, and anyone's actually welcome to do some of these write-ups in my forums if they want. I don't mind. Reach out to me if you have. I've been talking about building another site for write-ups. I just don't have time to maintain it. So if someone wants to help, reach out. But yeah, Jellyfin, I like it. I can say that much. But if I do a dedicated video on it, I really feel as though YouTube will come in and slap me. Cool. The system seems to have rebooted. Proxmox Data Center Manager. I'm going to reload this properly with, I did load this with those scripts, the community script. I left it on here, but I will rebuild it properly when I do some, I'm going to do some getting started videos of Proxmox. Actually, me and Wendell have been talking a lot about doing Proxmox properly. I'm also working with my friends at 45 Drives, and we figure it's probably good to do some good videos on how to set up your Proxmox system properly. Oh, all my write-ups are public. Anytime I do write-ups, they're public. So I don't do, like, I publish, I mean, if you spend time in my forums, you'll see that, oh, that's a fun one. There. Oh, how do I get rid of that? Yes. Are you guys seeing this? How do I make that go away? Oh, crap. I don't know what I'm even doing now. I can't stop. I can't type because these are stuck here. Is it a keyboard problem? There we go. This keyboard decides it needs that. This keyboard has quit working. That's a problem. Let me see if I plug it in, it makes it happy. It might. Maybe it just needs to be charged. I'm not sure. Yes. The power was low on the keyboard, so it was hieroglyphicing. Looking forward to those Proxmox collabs. Yeah, they're going to be fun. I want to do some parallels between the way I did things in XCPD, showing XCPNG, show how they could do on Proxmox. Is this new? Was their site yellow before? This feels new. Or was maybe their documentation page? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't new. This looks the same. I don't go to their site very often. I don't need to. You started with Proxmox. This is Tom on why Proxmox isn't a full stack VM service, and I moved to XCPD, which is nice. Yeah, that is, I mean, the appliance nature has a lot of advantages. It's so much easier to support because the people who have Proxmox problems are frequently their own Proxmox problems, I'm learning. The ability to do anything means people do anything. So that's been a challenge for sure. It doesn't mean Proxmox is bad. It's the fact that they give you the ability to do all the things. So people do all the things. If there's knobs that can be turned, people seem to turn the knobs. And I don't even know why they're turning the knobs. And frequently they don't know why they're turning the knobs. But they've gotten themselves in a situation where they turn too many knobs. And that's why they're calling for support. Not to help build it properly, but to try to save it because backups were not one of the knobs they turned. It's fun. Started using code words. Oh yeah, use code words instead. Yeah, that's a fun way we could probably get around it. Yeah, I'm still using XCPNG. Matter of fact, one of the challenges right now, XCPNG 8.3, I believe, is still broken when it comes to nested virtualization. So in order to get better at Proxmox, I'm going to build a nested virtualization version of XCPNG inside of Proxmox, along with a handful of other VMs. I have enough servers, I'll have both, but I thought that'd be kind of a fun way to do it because I can nest XCPNG inside of Proxmox, but the opposite right now isn't true. Pig Latin for all the band names. Yeah. But no, I'm happy you got it up and running. My XCPNG stuff, it just works. Well, no, XO5 is still what works. XO6 is not quite there, but my XO5, it just works. All the backups work, all the stuff. It's smooth. No, I got some old stuff to get rid of still. I was purging a lot of backups. I realized I hadn't cleaned up the backups in a while. Once again, I have a lot of storage. So having a lot of storage means nothing's forcing me to clean up backups from 3 years ago that I still have in my server. So I went and purged all of them. I don't really run that much on a day-to-day basis. There's not a ton of things on here. Lots of the stuff I do is run stuff for labs, but my things that run all the time are just these couple things right here. And this one I barely run. This is a shared lab I was working with a friend on, and currently I could stop it and no one would miss it. So Chasm I like. I need to rebuild Chasm, so I'll rebuild that on the new. I'll rebuild it on Proxmox. Why not? That seems like fun. Olama's fun. Greylog and everything else just runs in this one Docker VM. This is where everything lives, is in Docker and one VM. So I'm really simple. Yeah, I don't know really why. I get that they're pushing all the new features. I just don't know why they default the interface to it, because it's just, and I've got this problem where it just sits and spins and I don't know why, and I don't care. I'm doing something wrong probably, and because the things I usually go into are the backups, and the backups are what's missing. So even if I fix why it's spinning, which probably has something to do with the reverse proxy that I haven't looked into, something I need to pass as a parameter, I'll look at it later. But until they get the backups in there, it's not useful. Because every time I go to the backups, I have to go there. I probably could do an updated what's in my Docker. These are all the things I run. And the one I use the most is this one, but I did start using this. If you're looking for something kind of fun, I haven't finished it yet, but Lube Logger is pretty cool. This is just for tracking vehicles. I have a few more motorcycles. I have 4 motorcycles, so I need to put them all in here so I can track all my maintenance records on my motorcycles, because when you have 4 of them, I can't memorize it. Now, this is also a weird departure because I've always just kept manual written maintenance records, and it feels weird to put them digital, but I'm going to give it a try. I'll see if I stick with it, but I like the analog of tracking all my vehicle repairs by writing them in the back of the manual, because you don't really run out of space in the back of the manual. There's enough pages so I can note all the oil changes and brake changes or whatever maintenance was done on the bike. And it's nice because when I sell the bike, I don't care about the manual, so I hand it to the person, and now I'm handing them a record. Now, Lube Logger will let you print the record out, so I can do that, but yeah. I don't have an NVIDIA Shield. I have a Google Chromecast, and I find that the Chromecast works fine for Jellyfin. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. So I just do the thing, and I just do the little Chromecast remote, go to Jellyfin. I install this in an app, and I hit play, and I watch Star Trek. Actually, I'm rewatching some of the older Star Trek. Just when I'm like, I don't feel like watching anything. I don't want to think. I just want to reminisce. And then I realize the first season was really not great of Star Trek. I'm sorry. It was really good in the 90s when I was young. It's not Farpoint Station's not great. Still, I'm still a huge Star Trek fan. I have not watched any of the new stuff. What is the new one? Starfleet Academy? I don't know if it's good or not. I didn't care for Discovery, so I don't know. I'm still a Star Trek nerd. GMC no longer gives you a manual. It's a link to the manual. I have a Tesla. It also did not come with a manual. It's got an on-screen manual. So there's that. Yeah, I'm generally, like I said, pretty simple needs for things like Jellyfin. It does the job. It works. I'm not unhappy with it. You're not wrong. Strange New Worlds is good. I do like Strange New Worlds. Oh, good to hear you like the Ethernet shirt. Oh, I think we have a little while before we're done with the cold, because I think Chicago's got the same cold problem we have. It is just bitter out. You know, Discovery started out good and wandered. When they wandered into the future, the problem is everything became possible with technology, and it turned out to be like a technology showcase of we can make matter into anything instantly. We can just remake the ship come apart and go back together. And it just seems to, it took away from what Star Trek is supposed to be, is like a good narrative story. I actually really liked when Orville came out. I think the first episode of Orville was bad, but a couple episodes in, it got a little better. But I like that they followed a more Star Trek like story arc, and so the Orville was definitely kind of fun. I don't know. I think that's discontinued as well. I'm still like, of all of them, I'm the biggest fan of DS9. I think that had the best of the Star Treks, but I don't know. I definitely, TNG and DS9 are two of my favorites. So you can't go wrong with Jean-Luc Picard. It's any show. The technology is never supposed to be the showcase. The technology is the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is what moves the story forward. So you have the narrative, you have a story arc, you have, when you're structuring how you build this, you need a MacGuffin, you need the heroes to need something, but it shouldn't be what showcases. And I think that is where a lot of people get like mixed up in some of the Star Treks or some of the Discovery stuff. It's like it became the talk was the technology. Like, they can't send a probe, they have to send a ship. But then the next one, they can send a probe or just beam someone somewhere. They made it too much about the technology can do anything and lost the plot on the story. So did I watch Picard? I did. I think it wasn't bad. It was, I don't remember loving it, but if you put Jean-Luc in it, I'm in. So yeah, the Orville really had a feeling of like more Star Trek. I definitely agree with this. It was definitely like a better Star Trek feel with that one. Let's see. The weather in Indiana been making you tired too? Yeah. It is what was the other shows? I'm trying to remember the other one. It's 7 and 9 was in it, right? She was in the last one. I'm trying to remember some. I think I'm mixing them up. Was DS9 inspiration for Quad 9? Probably not. Galaxy Quest. There we go. Tom, what is AWS relationship to Zen server? So AWS primarily AWS runs on the Zen hypervisor. They do have KVM, but they're not exactly the same as Zen server. It's the Zen hypervisor. This comes up at the Zen meetings, which, by the way, Vates, the maintainers of XCPG, are part of. They contribute to the Zen hypervisor, which is a Linux Foundation project, and AWS participates in that as well. Because they use it. And I believe at the last talk, 70% of AWS is still running on the Zen hypervisor for the hyperscaler. But it's not the same as XCP&G because it's highly customized to the AWS environment. Same thing with the stuff that uses KVM inside of AWS. It's very customized KVM. It's not an off-the-shelf, we just spun up KVM and we're managing it. AWS has the resources and engineering to do quite a bit more with it. No, 79 was Voyager, but she was in it. That's what I'm saying. She was Jerry Ryan. That's who I was trying to, her name 7 and 9, Jerry Ryan. That's what I was trying to think of. Matter of fact, I was having trouble remember Jerry Ryan, but obviously some Star Trek nerds in here, so you know what her name was in Voyager, and that's where my daughter's name came from. For those wondering. So, am I hungry? Yes, I am, Brett. I seen your message. I don't know that I want to go out to eat. So I don't know. I'll be done with this live stream shortly, Brett, and I'll message you and figure that out. But yeah, I am indeed hungry, Brett. So but yeah, she was in Picard, and anyone who's heard me say my daughter's name, that's where my daughter's name came from, was her name in 7 of 9. And my daughter knows, of course. So I did not name my daughter 7 of 9, no. That would be amusing. I don't think her mom would have found it quite so amusing, but at least I was able to give my daughter a Star Trek name because it was a good name. For those that don't know, I'll save you some Googling. My daughter's name is Annika, Anika, as in the same name that 7 of 9 was birthed as. And I can't remember the episode number, but it's the Star Trek Voyager episode that gives her history. Oh yeah, better than 6-7. Better than 6. We'll definitely go better than 6-7. So, Jordy's not a bad name. Yep, born Annika Hansen. Ooh, V'ger from the first one. Yes. Ah, fun times. Well, Brett clearly wants to go get some food with me. I do need to eat, so I guess I could wind this down here. How long did I go for? We went for 2 hours. Not bad. 2 hours, and I started on time. We wandered into Star Trek. Not that I don't like talking about Star Trek. So, but we certainly wandered into Star Trek here. Anyways, I'm going to drop this off here. As I mentioned earlier, for those of you, if you go over to, and I see a couple people that did follow through on this. If you head over to lawrencesystems.com, yes, you can reach out to me on Signal. So that's something I said earlier in the video, and that's still something I'll say at the end with a possibly different group of people. So that is still there. If you want to say hi, hit me up in the forums at forums.lawrencesystems.com. And I think that's it. I don't think I got anything else, but I'm easy to reach out and say hi, and I'll keep you posted. And thank you. I don't know if you're still in here. Thanks for mentioning to some of those articles that I have noted over here on those Seagate drives, because I want to get to the bottom as best I can to the problems to put a video together to walk through all the troubleshooting things. It'll also lead into the torture test stuff, because I tortured the ZFS pool by ejecting drives a lot, and it just didn't die, which is also something I want to showcase, is just how much resiliency ZFS really has until it doesn't. So, you know, I'm willing to yank drives out, even though they're used at $300 a piece, to demonstrate how all this works. So thanks everyone. Live long and prosper. That seems like the best way to end this, right? Live long and prosper, everyone. Take care.